I think what made me interested, in working with communities and working with the storytelling and telling stories, um, I think it was just this desire of sharing with other people and, like just connecting with other people. Like growing up, I've always been very shy. My happy place in nature is our mountains. I think, like when I'm in the mountains, that's like my happiest, like that's the happy Tati. Like that will be, like the place or like that's the my vision is like to have, like my house in the mountains and just like I always joke around to my family and I'm like I see a mountain and I'm like, oh, I wish like I could just like run naked through that mountain. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yes, like like how liberating that will be just to run naked through the mountain. And like that's kind of like my vision, like to have, like a house in the mountain and just run naked. Like one day, like I might do it. But that's my happy place, like the mountains. I love mountains. I wanted to be a criminal investigator. And that was, like my career, like my dream. And once I was, like studying, I started to, like change that because like the way that the system, like I started like figuring out, I was like, okay, the system works in a funny way. And, like I don't know if I want to be part of that. So it was like, and then I took a photography course just for fun because like I had like, like an extra class that I could do just to take it. So I took a photography course and it was like this dark room film photography class. And I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, this is like really, really fun. And I remember like I used to take there was this park where we used to live in New Jersey, in the first home that we had. And there was this park that I used to go and take walks. And I remember one afternoon, I was taking a walk with my dad, and there was the sun, like the sunset, and the trees were like, the leaves were falling because it was fall. And falling in the United States or like in New Jersey, it's like so beautiful because the trees, like the leaves fall down and they change the color. And it was the sun and it was the golden hour, and it was like this beautiful light. And I was like, I wish I had a camera to like take this photo. And then I told my dad, I was like, I think I'm gonna get a camera. And then he was like, for what? And I was like, I don't know. I think I want to do photography. And then he just looked at me and he was like, because I've always been a person that wants to do everything. So it's like, I'm like, I want to do photography. I want to, like, I want to do rock climbing. I want to skate. I want to, like go in the mountains. And it's just like all this, like, it's always been like that. So my dad just took it as something that it will go away. And like, it wasn't really serious. And then I remember like buying a camera and I just started going with, like with my friends and like they used to play in bands, so I will go and like photograph them in shows and stuff. And like I love doing portraits of people. And it was like so funny because like like I was very shy and I was like, I don't know if I should ask him. I'm like, maybe I'm bothering him. What if they say no? And like all these questions. And I think like storytelling really helped me to like come out of that shell and like have that like that bravery to like speak up to others and be and like share. And it's like a different way of communication too, because like once people see you with a camera, that some people are like interested in like having their photo like created or made. um and it was like something that will build conversation too, like like just someone seeing you with a camera will be like, oh, you like photography, and then the conversation will start like very naturally. So I think like after that I wanted to change my degree, and then I couldn't, I didn't. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna finish it. I'm gonna still do photography. And then when I finish, like college, I can go for a master's and do something with photography. And during the master's program was when I developed the whole idea, and like a lot of things changed while like studying. And then it was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it and like see what comes out of it. And there were, like what I feel like when things are meant to be, and like you are doing the things with your heart and like consciously, like everything starts to just open up. And at the beginning, yes, it was, like a little hard to make that decision of like, okay, I'm moving, and what am I gonna do? Like, I need to find like the community, the organization who's gonna help me. I can just go and show up. And then like the organization like showed up, and like they were like, yeah, you can do it, you can go. And it was like so fast. I remember like I got in contact with the community, with the president of the community, and the president was like, yeah, I'll let you know when we go in the community, and then like you can come with us. And then I remember it was like the day before, and then he sent me a WhatsApp, and he's like, "We're going tomorrow. You have to be in the city where they take the charter flights. It's called Shell, and it's like by Puyo City. So he was like, you have to be there by 6 to take the flight." And I was like, oh my God, I don't have like anything. Like I haven't packed, I haven't done, like I was like, how about food and stuff? And then he was like, don't worry, like we're gonna, like get the food, you just get there at 6. And then I remember that I went there, and then I went in the community, and it was just so, like everything just flow very, very naturally at that point.
What was
And
the name of
since
the,
then,
sorry.
mhm,
What was the
no,
name of the community that you,
to the Sapara. So it's the Sapara nationality, and the community that I went to was Janchama. And since then, like I've been working with people from the Sapra community. And now with like I have two of my best friends who are Sapra, and like we work on projects together, and they're like my sisters, and it's just been like a really great journey so far. And like getting to also like know this other part of myself in a way too, relating to nature. Like the Sakura are well known for their knowledge about dreams and the oniric, you know so it's been very interesting to have that connection, right? And it's something that also was part of my project when I started working with them. It's something that I wanted to learn from them. It was about dreams, and it was like this worlds that are invisible, that are not tangible, and we can see them, but we know and we feel it and we sense it. And it's like the sensorial experiences that we all have, right? Like a dream that we sometimes don't even pay attention, but for them, for the separate people, it's something very important, and it's something that guides their life. And it's like it's the path for them to know what the future holds for them, right? And also in a way is this connection with the spirits that they live in the forest, and how they connect with the land. And when they go, for example, to hunt or to fish, or if when the women go to the chakras, to the small gardens, to get the cassavas to make their chicha, this beverage they drink. So everything is interconnected, right? So I think trying to understand, these connections has been something very important for me. And also connecting with my own dreams, right? I remember when the first time I went there, with the sapra, and I wasn't dreaming, and they will ask me because they wake up in the morning to interpret their dreams. So they would ask me, what do you dream? And I'll be like, I don't remember. Like, I don't think I'll, like, I don't think I dreamed. And they will give me tobacco, because that's what they do. Like, they inhale tobacco to like help them neutralize the energy and just get into this, like groundedness. And also it cleanses the bad energies that maybe were attached while they were dreaming or while they were asleep. So and they will make this tea that's made of the Wayusa leaf, which is a leaf that's called Wayusa. And then they will drink this tea too, and it's kind of like to clear in and like cleanse your body as well. So they started to tell me to like journal what I, like what was going on during the day. When I wake up, like whatever I remember from my dream, to write it down at the end of the night, like when I go to sleep, to just write, like how was my day, what did I do, and then try to in the morning, like try to, like connect it and see how your day is guided by any dream that I had. And I remember they were like, well, I think like you should just, focus on being here, being present, and just live the experience that you're living right now without, like filming or without doing photographs, and just like be part of the community and be part of like the people here. And then for a whole month, I remember I was just, like chilling. I was just like living there. I wasn't doing any work. I wasn't taking any photographs until afterwards. And I started like filming, and I started doing, like the work. But like for the first month, it was just like me adapting to these new habits, and in a way, like trying to connect to this rhythms, because when you're there, it's like this rhythm that it's completely different from the city, right? There is no time. Like I remember like asking people, so like what time is it? And then because like I, like it was like this need of knowing the time, and they were like, why do you need to know the time? Like do you have somewhere to be? And I was like, no. And then they will be like, then why do you need to know the time? Like, don't worry about the time. So I was never the person to have a journal or to have a diary or to even write at all. Like like I was, every time I will have to write, I will dread, and I will be like, no, I have to draw, like write, and I will procrastinate. And like when I went there and I had to keep a journal because those were my field notes. And it was, it was just it was just this way of, like releasing in a way too, like what was going on, and like what I was like seeing and what I was feeling. And after a while, it became a habit, like everything else, right? Like you continuously doing, and it becomes habits, and habits become rituals. And rituals become part of your practice, and like whatever spiritual practice that you have, right? Like this ritual of journaling, of writing, it's been part now for like the past 3 years of my practice, of my spiritual practice, that like I would, and I don't write, like every day, but I do, like take the time to write what's, like what goes on, what happens, if like I have, and like I always have to have my journal if I have an idea, and then I'm like, okay, I have to write it, and if it's like a photo project or something like that. And then with the dreaming and the dream journal, I did have, like a specific dream journal while I was doing my field work and my research. And then after a while, it just became part of my writing and my routine, right? So like I will wake up, and it's funny when you are moving a lot, because like a lot of the times the dreams feel different or are very different depending on the place that you are. And I find that sometimes when I'm in the city, I don't dream often. Um, so it's for me, it's very important to have like my spiritual practice where, you know, like I ground myself and like I give my space before I go to bed. And then, you know, like just this process of decompressing and giving thanks for the day and just like releasing, right? And then, you know, like what they say is like before you go to bed you have to be like, okay, I'm going to bed, I'm going to sleep, and I'm going to dream. And then, you know, like your mind also like becomes aware that you're going into a dream, and then, you know, like it's conscious of what's going on. You know, like if what I encountered when I went into the community and like the barriers that were related to like speaking up or like telling their own stories, it was more because of history of people going in and you know, like taking photographs or documenting them and then returning to, you know, like their homelands or the place where they live and never coming back. And it was this thing of, like I said, it was like extracting, leaving, and then, you know, like they are forgotten because like the people that went in already got the job or already got the work that they went to do. So there wasn't, and there was this, I feel like maybe before it was different, and maybe before, you know, like there was um this like they will give you more communication or more of their part. But then like everyone else, right? Like if, you know, like I'm giving you everything and you just taking it and then leaving, then the next person that comes and asks for the same, I'm not going to be the same person. I'm not going to give you all because I know what's going to happen. So it's been this history of like, you know, have like all every time like doing the same, that when I went in, we had a meeting, and that was also like when I realized that I wasn't there to like show them anything or to like even, you know, like I was there to learn from them. And that was when it came this collaborative and, you know, like this co-creation process that I was like, I think this is the methodology that I want to use in my work. Because I remember going in and they started asking me all these questions that I hadn't asked myself before going in. And that I was like, wow, like I don't know what to say. So it was, you know, like they will be like, well, you know, like what are you gonna do with the film? How is the film gonna be projected? Why, you know, like why do you want to do this project with us? Like it was like all these questions that, yes, I knew what I wanted to do the project because I was interested in, you know, like how they had this knowledge about dreaming, and that was like part of my research that I wanted to know about. But then they were like, how are you going to film? How is the film going to be? And those were questions that, you know, like at at that time I was like, it was like my first film, the first time that I was doing field work. And I hadn't, you know, like I had this vision of the film that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then everything just went to the floor. It was just like a crumble, and I was like, oh, there is no film. Like, what am I going to do now? And then, you know, like, and I think like it really helped me when, you know, like they started asking me all these questions, and like I knew that, you know, they had this interest of participating, but at the same time, it wasn't going to be something that I do it, I leave, and then I never come back. Like at that moment, I felt like it was a compromise that I had with the community, that I was gonna keep working on the projects that they wanted to work also. To be very clear when we work on these projects, and like the communication from, you know, like from day one, I think it was very clear with like the community that I work with, separate women. And they were clear with me, I was clear with them, and we just, like build this compromise. And I think it's very important to also like always explain that this type of projects or what, like any project needs patience, and it's not gonna happen like in a week or in a month or even 3 months. Like sometimes it takes years for something that's, like a collective or like a grassroots initiative to, like to stand up on its own. And always, like communicate what's going on, communicate what their, like what the progress of the projects are, or how the projects are going to be projected. So always have this communication with them. I think it's very important, rather than just, like um do it and then disappear, right? When it comes to research and storytelling, I think like co-creation and collaboration is very important. And I think that comes from, like the background that when I was studying the master's in anthropology, and like we have like a lot of texts that maybe were very, like aligned with this I don't know how to put it so people don't get offended, but there is like this kind of like, okay, the anthropologist has the knowledge and they go into the communities to just in a way also extract their knowledge, right? And there is this, like it's always like this academic way of thinking that it's been based on, like a system that has been done for years. So when it comes to, like the academic side of, like when it comes to research and all this in anthropology, it's always been based on, well, I have the knowledge and I'm going to go and do research and show them what this knowledge is. But then when, like I went to the community, it's really not that way, because in a way they are showing you their knowledge. You're there just to learn from them. You're not there to show them anything. And like when we say like there's like many, like many texts or many like instances where we say, well, like we are speaking or we're giving voice to the communities, or we giving voice to X person. And I don't think we're giving anybody's voice, because we all have a voice. And our role as storytellers or as investigators or researchers are to amplify those voices, which is, like completely different than giving a voice, because I feel like we all have voices. We all, are able to speak up for ourselves, for each other. And it comes to when it comes to communities, you know, now more than ever, they are, like speaking up for each other, speaking up for themselves. And we're there just as allies, right? We're not there to show them anything. We're not there to, extract their knowledge. My idea was to have a book of, like the different stages of the project, because we've worked with different mediums, and it hasn't just been like digital photography, but it's been, like we have the cyanotypes. And back in 2022, I got a grant from Photographers Without Borders. And then we had this workshop with the women where we made Polaroid portraits and then they embroidered themselves. So it was another part of the project, and now it's like putting in everything together. My vision is kind of like in the book, so that has been, like now finding that funding, so like I can finish the last, chapter of the project, and then finding funding for the book. So, and it's been, since, well, it was like 2021, so it's been 3 years, and I gave myself like 5 years to finish this whole thing. So, I have 2 more years to go. The beginning was focused on this the oniric world, and like understanding the relationships between humans and non-humans, and how separate people are connected to the land, and just this like the invisible world that exists beyond the material and beyond what our eyes can see. And also like how women have like an important role in this conservation of the Amazon. And then it kind of like it weaves, right? The second chapter also weaves into this like territorial defense, and like it's more centered on the role of women as land defenders, and like how important it is to also have women at the front lines and not just men, right? And like there is like this equality. And then the third chapter, I want to focus in on this idea of identity and belonging, and how like I feel like in history there's this history of displacement and just like loss of culture in a way. So I want this to kind of weave together into like their cosmology, and there it comes to territorial defense, and how the well-being of the land is important also to maintain a well-being of the people that live there. And then it comes into identity, right? Like a sense of belonging. What does that mean now? And like in today's world, like what does it mean for them to be separate and to belong to this place that they belong, right? And with all the changes that had happened, like technology, and like all the we call it the colonialism, and how throughout the years they have been like they've lost their language, and like how do they still maintain their own identity. I feel like right now my work since the beginning has also changed and shifted. Right now I've been more focused on, or like center on, wanting to create these images that portrayed hope and like connection, and in a beautiful way, and not like just to show the problem, or like the ugly part of things, but also the other part, right? The hope that it still remains, the beautiful part of like the connection with the land, of still being alive, of still having like a clean river, and just this relationship of body territories that like they share. And I think like we all share in a way, right? Like this relationship with the landscape and what surrounds us. So I feel like my work has it's shifting towards that, or my vision is like, how do I make like an image that gives this hope to the audiences, or that like brings this inspiration, or it's like in a way a catalyzer for like change, a habit, or like something that inspires others too, and it's just not an image of like a destructed land or a destructed river, but like how like how an image can bring that hope to the a bigger audience, because I feel like that's what we need now more than ever, like to be like to have hope, and to just like connect more with what we have at our like dispose, like our fingertips, like like just not like, not because you don't live in a place like a nature place, or like in the Amazon, like you're not responsible for the destruction of it, but like being mindful of what are our habits, like how are we living our life, like is it like intentionally, or is it just because we are comfortable of like this system and we continue to live it that way. Everyone has their own way of connecting, right? Like I told you, like sometimes even with the breath, like we connect with like with the land, because the like the air is part of of that system that gives us life, right? So how do we take 5 minutes, like when we wake up, when we open our eyes and we're laying in bed, and just like to breathe and be like, okay, I'm breathing. Thank you for this breath. Or, like before we go to sleep, like, thank you for the day. And like, it's just like little things that, acknowledging that are there, right? Like before, like when we drink water, like sometimes we just drink it. Like we don't really like we don't think about it. And it's just like, um, like being like, well, thank you, water, for like, like refreshing me. Or like I always say like thank gracias agüita, like thank you, right, when I'm like drinking it. And like I always make this sound, and like it's like, and I do it to like my parents, and like my friends, and they're like, what the hell? Like it's like so annoying for them. And I'm like, well, it's very refreshing, and like it makes me feel good. So like, like acknowledging the elements in a way, right? Like I spoke about this, like when we take a shower and it's just like, like the water, it's like washing, like how do we feel, like sometimes it's like we're in a rush and we're like just showering, and like we're not even conscious that, like what's going on and like what the water is doing to our bodies. Right. And like for indigenous communities, they do have this notion that comes like naturally because they were born in a place that is, like that's alive, and like they share this symbiotic, like relationships, and they share this connection naturally, right? When they go to the river, and like the river is also considered, like a living spirit, right? Like it has like a spirit, it is alive. For us, like that don't have that background, right? That grew up with different cultures and different, like places. We might not have that, right? Like maybe our mom didn't, like share that with us. Like she will just shower us, like, but like it's, like I feel like growing up, you have like a lot of us, I think we have that curiosity of connecting with, like even when we go to a park, like why do we go to a park, right? We go there to like find peace and to, like feel or like decompress or just like take a walk. And because we know that our body reacts in a certain way when we are in a natural space. So how do we build, like a practice, and how do we build a sense of also, reciprocity, right? Like we take and we give, right? Like the land offers us, like so much, like the food that we eat, right? Like it comes from, like Mother Earth. And how do we, like how do we harvest our foods, like for people who are able to do that? Like there is different things like to connect with people who garden, right? Like how do they connect with their plants when they're planting them? So there is all this, like different things that I guess like different people have to connect with nature. And like I said, just like being conscious of your breath, like that's already connecting with the elements, right?